I was a creature of habit. I don't know. Maybe I still am. And as much as I enjoyed adventure and exploration of the weird outside my mundane routines of absorbing marijuana smog and drowning in liquor, I liked knowing the familiar faces and slacking around my usual stomping grounds, people watching, much better. It was Friday night around 8:30. Not a whole lot happening in town. Not as lively as most Friday nights. The weather's decent, but it just seemed like an apathetic weeknight. It started out when I first peeked at the sky and I saw the moon, piercing in the bluish night sky as the clouds seemed to avoid it. I felt like the hatred in the sky was focused on me. I kind of felt a little ostracized, like I'm not supposed to be outside right now. I really don't like being paranoid, and maybe I'm just being silly. Nah, I'm being arrogant and silly. You ever get that feeling though? Like the script of life didn't write you into this scene? This night belonged to others and you're not supposed to be out here, not even as an extra. I'm just gonna ignore these cues. I'm silly. I'm being silly. Plus it's Friday. I have plans. Why should I be at home? I sat at my usual table in the outside section of Buzzcat, this coffee shop I sometimes frequent with friends. Our group patiently waited for Toby to pull up after a beer run so we could hop in and head to the water. The plan is to go drink at the beach, illuminated by a bonfire, and we'll aggressively throw emptied bottles into. Usual shit. The clock's ticking, and we're still waiting, but we kind of know how to entertain our sober selves sucking down cigarettes like adults. Everything's fine, but I still feel unwelcomed by the universe. I have a big enough ego to ignore this, though. Stop thinking, man. I'm the star of this show. Fuck that sky. What is taking the beer so long, Toby? It's almost like we'll be forced to talk about things that have more meaning than drunken banter. People will know I have nothing to say. At least I can fool my friends. But the moon is still watching me. The more pressure I felt, the more anxiety I started to have, and I tend to soften up when the apprehension grows so heavy. I become crippled by it. The group needed me to be strong. I'm not sure if this was true, but that was the role I would assume. More people started to fill up the patio. It was getting louder, which is a little bit of a relief. You know, people watching is a perfect decoy to cover up how uninteresting I am. Then Crazy Eric, the local homeless, emerges onto the scene with his shopping cart. This is always good for entertainment. We drank with him a couple of times at the park. He's harmless with a sad backstory. He's a good guy. If you're nice to him, it seems to cheer him up, and there's never a dull moment with old Eric around. Without fail, he recognizes us. It seems our little group clears his head, and we can get somewhat of a human being chipped away from the babble that oozes out of his abstract mind. Eric seemed a little different tonight, though. Usually he's more cheerful around us and talkative, but it seemed there was a change within him, like he seemed wiser and tame, as if he just came from the desert followed by a powerful journey on peyote.
You guys want some magic?
Were the only words he spoke to us. We nodded in agreement because Toby's still not here, so let's humor Eric. Eric pulls out a big box that was in his cart and plops it down on our table.
Open the box.
I obeyed, and after a little struggle, I managed to breach it. What the? Alright, there's a head inside. Harmless Erickson's a murderer? Okay, this is bad. This is a crime scene. Eric sits down in the extra chair looking at his ripped up shoes with sorrow, like sadness in his eye.
Talk to it. Talk to the head. But don't listen to it.
I look around and the other patrons at the Buzzcat didn't seem to notice anything yet. I go to cover this gruesome thing, but before I act, the head's eyes open wide and bright. I must have jumped back a foot or two. Then, like something out of science fiction, the head levitated itself out of the box. It looked nowhere near being dead. Just didn't have a body and it could float. Now the crew and I were paused in disbelief. Then it started to rotate in a circle as we nervously chuckled in shock. Suddenly, it got the attention of the other patrons. People started to gather around us in this macabre merry-go-round, like this was all some parlor trick, and no one seemed scared. This is a touristy town after all. As it slowly spun in a circle, it would scan everyone with its stare.
Don't listen to it.
Eric warns. You could feel its eyes like some foreign pulse in our bodies, or maybe mind. Once it gathered what it needed from each invasive stare, it began to speak, but with lighthearted roast at fixable shortcomings.
Look at that goofy haircut. Auditioning for the Three Stooges reboot? What did you do? Borrow your kid brother's shirt? You look like you're about to choke. Go change. Hey, Waldo! Stay hidden!
Corny, I know, but this was all so impressive. For one, I've never seen anything levitate, nor a severed head for that matter, especially one that can carry a conversation as it rotates and has some sort of perspective on us individually. Maybe I was being warned by the moon in my gut feeling, but this is something I would have missed out on. I still felt the sinking feeling that I'm out of my element. So to blend in, I mimicked laughter and joined along in light applause with the crowd to not bring any attention to myself. I was just trying to stay off the radar, and at the same time trying to ignore that invasive moon by acting like I was distracted by this busking phenomenon. Then the head slowed its roll as it came to a full halt. I was the target in this weird spin-the-bottle game. I felt the spotlight as the audience was eagerly silent while this head was thinking of what to say about me.
Wow, check this cool guy out. I bet you French inhale your cigarette smoke to make the ladies think you're mysterious.
Mild chuckles from the other witnesses and people at my table. That's fine, the head wasn't wrong. I smiled, bankrupt of any kind of comeback. Perhaps he'll move on.
Why is your baseball cap on backwards?
Then the head looks around the crowd and heightens its voice.
Blowjobs!
The crowd roared. Okay, that's funny. It was funny. The head wasn't finished with me. It levitated to a higher ground and grew a little larger. Then it started to get personal.
What a sad little insecure boy, masquerading as an alpha when deep down he just wants someone to hold him at night. Oh!
The head was pointing out my true shortcomings, the kind of things we ignore, the insecure thoughts of what we might look like through other people's eyes, the kind of depressing rabbit holes we fall into when staring in a bathroom mirror on a head full of acid. I felt the total wave of laughter like my deepest, darkest secrets was just some joke. I looked around for Toby, who was supposed to pick us up, but no luck, no escape plan.
This young man is a control freak because he's afraid of the unknown. What a bossy coward!
I had to sit there and take verbal abuse by this thing as I shrunk to a smaller size, feeling pitted by a circle of bodies quaking in laughter. And old Eric repeats the same 4 words.
Don't listen to it.
As much as my pride protested against it, I got up to leave, but the head just followed me, talking through a bullhorn as it announced all my terrible secrets to anyone who can hear it.
This young man looks at people as disposable, but the true reason is he sucks at forming real relationships.
I felt this head was a cartoon rain cloud showering me with all my doubts about myself. I just wanted to go home. I tried to keep my cool without tripping over my feet, walking off, hiding my panic.
Look at the way he walks! Hey, young man! Why do you walk like that? This young man hates to be criticized because he knows he's not as special as he'd like to be, and he never wants to face that fact. No one cares. Loser!
But the head just got louder, and I ran clumsily, just to get away, knocking into pedestrians passing by, whom I'm sure heard everything that was said about me. Finally, I escaped the public, all alone with this head, which eventually stopped talking, just stared with some disappointment. Each day passes by and the disdain from the head seems to grow stronger and stronger. I don't know how long it's been. I cut off all contact with people until I can get a hold of this situation and myself. I can't seem to do anything or think of anything without this head frowning down on me. I was scared, trying to make any kind of contact, thinking this head will just abuse me. It was hard to eat. It was hard to enjoy music, and I just couldn't get into any TV shows or movies without everything turning into clay, all because of this critical head. Some days I'll see the head smile, like maybe I'm finally doing something right, and just as I start to gain a little confidence to enjoy life, the head shows disapproval, and it all goes away. The twisted mind games this head seemed to be playing casted a heavy weight that constantly tired me, so I napped a lot to try and sleep it away. Every time I had the strength to wake up like clockwork, the head was there. It just wasn't going away. Staring and watching my every move, ready to strike me with razor-sharp realities, verbalizing the things that I hate about myself. I couldn't forget Eric's words about not listening to it, and trust me, I tried to ignore this damn head. Then I remembered what he said before that.
Talk to it.
I mean, this thing is just quietly staring at me. What do I say? I'm afraid to say anything, because although unsettling, I prefer this head to be in total silence and not go down that terrible laundry list of how awful and useless I am. What do I say? I don't even think I could talk if I tried. It's been days, weeks, months maybe. One thing I learned about having demons in your mind is you can't get rid of them, but you can try and control them. Then as I stared in the eyes of the head, it dawned on me. I decided to give the head a spoonful of its own insulting medicine, demeaning it by using it as a prop for ridiculous nursery rhymes. Hi, I'm Dead Fred. I'm a spinning head. Insults is all I said. Look at you, you're off your med, over there talking to an imaginary head. This way, I'm the one in control. I'm the god of creating scriptures of my own thoughts. As I continued with silly nursery rhymes, I was no longer intimidated by this terrible thing. It started to shrink. Then I sang louder. I'm Dead Fred, and there's a candle in my head. Read a book by my glow skull and knowledge will be fed. Yeah, it was dumb, but it was working. The head seemed to show a little panic in its eyes. I was beginning to feel stronger. I'm Dead Fred, and I'm just a toy. When I had a body, I looked damn good in my bell-bottom corduroy. Finally, the head, was gone. The dark weight was lifted, and everything seemed bright, and I was feeling a little optimistic, excited again. I felt the sticky mud in my mouth clearing up, and I could speak with better command. Maybe everything will be back to normal again. Maybe my head will no longer feel jerky and zapped with every thought like some student driver is learning how to switch gears. Maybe I learned something from all of this. Maybe I'll learn to be a better person, or maybe I'll make the same mistakes. I never did see Crazy Eric again, probably a good thing. But as masochistic as it sounds, sometimes I miss the head and the exhausting thoughts.